Okay, so if you spend any time online in those fitness or biohacking circles, you've almost certainly heard of this stuff, BPC 157. It's got this massive buzz around it, almost like it's a wonder drug for healing anything and everything. But is it really a miracle in a vial, or is the hype just getting way ahead of the actual science? Let's dig in and find out. I mean, the promises being made are just huge. You look at product guides and they claim it does it all. Accelerates wound healing, crushes inflammation, supports your gut, repairs your joints. They're basically positioning it as a fix-all for, well, pretty much any physical problem you can think of. And this isn't some obscure niche topic anymore. A recent scientific review actually looked into this and found that online interest is at an absolute all-time high. We're talking over 50 million tagged video views on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Yeah, this stuff has definitely gone mainstream. So, that brings us to the big question, right? What is the real story here? For the next few minutes, we're going to slice right through all that marketing noise and the social media hype to get to the scientific reality of BPC 157. To do that, we have to start with the science. And look, it is so important to stress this part. What we're about to look at is preclinical science. What that means is this is all stuff that researchers have seen in a lab, almost entirely in animal studies, not in people. So what is BPC 157 anyway? The full name is Body Protection Compound 157. It's a peptide, which is just a short chain of amino acids, and it was first written about way back in 1992. And what's interesting is it's not some completely synthetic thing. It's a compound that's naturally found in our own gastric juices. The thinking is that it helps keep our tissues healthy and in balance. Okay, so how is it supposed to work? Well, based on what they've seen in animals, scientists think it does three main things. First, it boosts growth by kicking on pathways for new cells and blood vessels to form. Second, it increases blood flow by ramping up things like nitric oxide. And third, it actively fights inflammation by shutting down key inflammatory markers. So in the lab, it kind of looks like the perfect recipe for healing. And you got to admit, the results they saw in animals are genuinely impressive. We're talking about everything from better muscle function and faster tendon healing to helping rabbits heal from fractures almost as well as a bone graft. It even reduced inflammation in arthritic rats and helped restore stability in torn ligaments. I mean, across the board in these preclinical studies, BPC 157 looks like a total home run. But, and this is a huge but, this is where our story takes a very sharp turn. Because there is a massive critical gap between what we see in the lab with animals and what we actually know about its effects in human beings. Okay, so a recent systematic review, which is basically a study of all the other studies, went out and gathered all the available research on BPC 157 and muscle and bone injuries. And what did they find? They found a total of 35 preclinical studies. 35 studies in animals showing all that promise we just talked about. So how many clinical studies did they find that were actually done on humans? Just one. Not 35, not 10, one. That giant gap is, without a doubt, the single most important part of this whole story. And let's just put that side by side for a second. On one side, in animals, you've got dozens of studies showing real, objective, measurable improvements in everything from muscle function to bone healing. On the other side, that one human study, it was a small, backward-looking study of just 12 people with knee pain. And out of those 12, 7 said they felt better. That's it. It's just subjective relief. No measurements, no control group, just a few people saying they felt some relief. The difference in the quality of evidence here is just staggering. So this brings us to a really strange place. We have this compound with almost zero human data, and yet it's banned by major sports leagues, unapproved by regulators, but somehow it's incredibly easy to buy. Welcome to the Wild West. The official stances couldn't be clearer. The FDA has flagged it for significant safety concerns. The World Anti-Doping Agency, the UFC, the NFL, they've all specifically banned it by name. So the people whose job it is to ensure athlete safety and regulate drugs are all screaming, "Stay away from this." Which, of course, leads to the most obvious question in the world. If all these official organizations have banned it, why can you go online right now and buy it from dozens of websites? How is that even possible? Well, the answer is a little messy. It lives in this legal gray area. See, BPC 157 is not approved for any medical use, and the FDA told pharmacies they can't make it. But, and this is the key, it's not a controlled substance, so just having it isn't illegal. And this loophole lets companies sell it online, usually by calling it a research chemical or a dietary supplement, labels that let them completely sidestep any FDA rules about quality, purity, or safety. So now we can see the whole picture, right? We have this incredible promise that we've seen in the lab, but it's up against some huge peril out here in the real world. Let's really weigh the actual risks for anyone who's even thinking about using this stuff. The safety data is a perfect mirror of that evidence gap we talked about. In animals, even at really high doses, studies found no signs of toxicity, no lethal dose. It seemed pretty safe for them. But for humans, that big review found zero clinical safety data. Not a little bit, zero. Its safety profile in people is a complete and total unknown. And that means anyone using BPC 157 is taking on some serious, unknown risks. First, contamination. This market is a free-for-all, and studies on similar supplements show that as many as 58% of them can be contaminated with other things. Second, the long-term side effects are a complete mystery. And finally, while it's not hard data, you can find tons of anonymous reports online from users talking about troubling side effects, anxiety, heart palpitations, depression. You just have no idea what you're really getting or what it's going to do to you. Which leaves us with this final thought. BPC 157 is this fascinating but really conflicted substance. It has this incredible potential that we see in the lab, but the absolute lack of human safety and efficacy data makes using it right now a really dangerous gamble. So with all that promise, but with so little actual proof, where does that leave the real evidence-based search for a cure?